Begin by just mentioning that our farmers in the Chesapeake Bay region are currently facing the need to reduce nitrogen loadings in the watershed by 60% from where we are today, phosphorus by 70%, sediment by 75%, and there's little doubt that those same types of mandates and requirements are coming to other watersheds across the state, and that's why we're here today. Pennsylvania Farm Bureau certainly believes that the fair share for the Clean Water Plan of Pennsylvania that we're representing here today contains all the programs and funding levels that are needed over the course of the next 5 to 7 years to help farmers adequately address the requirements and needs that are out there. I'm sure you all recall that in 2003, DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, began developing a Chesapeake Bay tributary strategy. And this was required by the Chesapeake 2000 agreement, all states that were involved in that. And based on what they came out with in the TRIB strategy, agriculture is being held responsible for contributing approximately 63% of the total phosphorus going into the bay, 49% of the total nitrogen, and 72% of the sediment. Now these numbers confound and I think frustrate our farmers to a large degree because farmers feel like they've been doing a lot of things for a long time now. And I think what gets lost in these numbers is the fact that we have had significant gains in the efforts we've made in the past. We've reduced our nitrogen loading by 40% since 1985. We've reduced phosphorus by 30% and reduced sediment by 25%. So again, I think that gets overshadowed by these new goals that have been set for us, making farmers feel like we're really not getting anywhere when they are. I think you're also quite aware in 1993 is when we first state to pass the Nutrient Management Act, and we had nearly 900 farms required under that act to do a nutrient management plan. But also worth noting that 1,200 farms voluntarily complied with that new Nutrient Management Act. As an example of how our farmers have stepped up. But in more recent years, we've seen a whole lot of new things coming down the pike, creating more need for financial support and technical support for our farmers. In 2004, those concentrated animal operations and concentrated animal feeding operation regulations were revised that enhanced environmental protections by requiring phosphorus-based plans in addition to the nitrogen. Also in 2004, Governor Rendell signed into law the Commercial Manure Hauler and Broker Certification Act, which also put new requirements on our farms. And then in 2005, the acre law was established, and that substantially broadened state regulations beyond the federal level, and they encompass more farms, more types of farms, strengthening clean water requirements. And I just pointed these out as examples of the new requirements farmers are facing and why they're frustrated with all these new requirements, that we don't see evidence of support for these new requirements in our state budget. The overwhelming majority of farmers want to do the best job they can do to maintain environmental quality on the farms. Again, I think that's evident in the fact that we have 1,200 voluntary compliers in the Nutrient Management Act. It's also evident with your support and help, we had the $10 million REAP program introduced last year, and we all know that within 2 weeks' time, that money was all taken. And this year, we basically did it in one day. So I think that shows the farmers are there ready to step up to the plate. The resources are there to help them. For many family farms, the problem is not that they don't know what needs to be done to make environmental improvements on their farms. The problem is having the technical and financial resources to implement the environmental improvements that are needed. Appropriations for programs like the Nutrient Management Program have certainly not kept pace with the increased regulatory demands that have been placed on farms. And appropriations made for operations of conservation districts have been inadequate to say the least. Conservation districts perform a vital role in helping farmers develop and implement farming practices to improve environmental quality of farming operations in a practical and economical manner. And they do provide farmers with credible and practical source in evaluating what needs to be done to solve environmental problems. The Department of Environmental Protection estimates that the cost for agriculture and meeting water quality goals for Chesapeake Bay alone is $600 million. Pennsylvania Farm Bureau was very supportive, along with the coalition, in helping the municipal authorities achieve financial help in upgrading sewage treatment plants across the state, as was noted by the chairman. However, we quite frankly feel that agriculture has been left behind, since we did not see any new funding for the agricultural programs. The financial impact on individual farmers in meeting this Chesapeake Bay strategy is going to be far greater than the doubling and tripling of sewage rates that ratepayers were facing had they not got the financial assistance that was recently passed. Fair Share Coalition partners here, I think, all understand that the water quality goals in the Bay region and across the state would not be met without expansion of best management practices on our farms to address sediment and nutrient reductions. And that expansion is not going to occur without adequate funding of the core programs in our state budget, such as the Nutrient Management Fund and funding for agricultural research and extension, as well as conservation districts. Flat funding in these programs continue to put our farmers at a disadvantage in adopting proven technologies and discovering new methods to address our environmental challenges. Annual funding for the Nutrient Management Transfer Program needs to be increased from $3.277 million to $5 million annually. And Penn State extension and research lines need to be increased by at least $3 million to each line to reclaim the financial resources that we've lost in recent years. And a $10 million increase for conservation districts is needed to begin to provide the adequate technical support on our farms. And expanding the REAP program, REAP tax credit program, from $10 million to $35 million, along with a $15 million direct 50% cost share program to incentivize farmers' implementation of needed best management practices, is also essential and supported by the coalition. And finally, there is a great need to create a viable nutrient trading program that will leverage funds for best management practices on farms while saving taxpayer and sewage ratepayer dollars. The Builders Association will further discuss the nutrient trading aspect of this with you today. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to testify, Chairman Hanna, for your support and leadership on the issue, as well as Republican Chairman Hershey, and the support of the entire committee exhibited in the passage of House Bill 2656 this summer. Thank you.